Right, welcome everyone to today's explainer all about international transportation. Have you ever ordered a product from halfway across the globe and literally a few days later it's sitting right there on your doorstep? It feels a bit like magic, doesn't it? Well, it's not magic, it is logistics. Today we're going to explore the absolute physical foundation of cross-border trade.
Let's dive straight in with a brilliant quote from the comedian Milton Berle. He once said, "If opportunity doesn't knock, builds a door." I absolutely love this because it perfectly sets the stage for our lesson today on how countries and businesses actively connect themselves to the global economy.
So you might be wondering, how exactly does a country build a door to the global economy? Well, imagine that the opportunity we are chasing is international trade. To actually access it, a country has to build its very own door. And in our world of logistics, we call that door transport infrastructure. Without it, goods simply cannot move, your logistics costs go completely through the roof, and ultimately, customer service fails.
Here is our quick roadmap for today. First, we'll look at core transport infrastructure. Second, comparing transport modes. Third, selecting the right mode. And finally, we'll wrap up with a practical case study on fresh fruit.
Okay, Section 1, Core Transport Infrastructure. Let's look at the foundational elements. There are four absolute vital pillars that support the efficient movement of goods in any trading country. We've got maritime ports, highly productive handling equipment on the docks, like those massive gantry cranes, reliable highway networks linking those ports to the inland areas, and a really flexible mix of transport modes. If even one of these pillars is weak, the whole system suffers, and moving raw materials or finished goods becomes a real struggle.
Now, just to make sure we're completely on the same page, let's quickly define a port. It is simply the essential gateway that bridges sea and land transport. It's a dedicated facility where ships can safely dock to load and unload their cargo. Getting these sea-land interfaces right is an absolutely crucial part of any firm's wider logistics strategy.
As we talk about ports, you're going to hear the term TEU constantly. It stands for 20-foot equivalent unit, which is basically just a standard 20-foot shipping container. To put the massive scale of global trade into perspective, modern container ships on the main trade lanes carry between 3,000 and 6,000 TEUs at a single time. Imagine up to 6,000 of those huge metal boxes on just one ship.
Moving right along to Section 2, comparing transport modes, we're going to look at the differences between the slow giants of the sea and the swift birds of the air.
It is genuinely staggering to realize that a massive 80% of all international cargo volume moves across the oceans. 80%. So why is that? It boils down to extremely low freight costs. And those incredibly low costs feed directly into how competitive a country is on the global stage.
Now within sea freight itself, you basically have two choices. First, you've got liner services. These operate on a published schedule and a fixed route. It's very much like a regular city bus. You know when it arrives and where it goes, making it perfect for regular shipments. On the flip side, we have tramp services. These have no fixed schedule at all. You charter them for one specific journey based on exactly where your cargo needs to go. It's just like hiring a private taxi, and it's mostly used for massive amounts of bulk commodities like grain or coal.
Conversely, let's look up at the skies. While air freight moves a tiny 1% of global volume, it carries over 20% of the world's global cargo value. Modern freighters are absolutely enormous, carrying over 90 tons per aircraft, which even allows them to move oversized items. Essentially, air moves what is precious, what is highly perishable, or what is desperately urgent. This brings us to a nice, clear comparison of our five main modes. As you can see, sea is the cheapest, but it's also the slowest, while air is the fastest but hits you with the highest costs. A really common mistake students make is assuming cost is the only thing that matters. Actually, scratch that. It's just one piece of the puzzle. For instance, road transport gives you that ultimate door-to-door flexibility. Rail is brilliantly efficient for heavy land freight. And pipelines? Well, they give you a steady flow for liquids at incredibly low operating costs.
This leads us naturally into Section 3, selecting the right mode. Knowing the modes is great in theory, but how do we actually choose?
Well, logistics managers have to carefully juggle these five crucial factors. They have to balance the transit time against the predictability of the arrival. They're constantly comparing the cost of transportation against the actual physical needs of the cargo. And finally, they have to navigate market and regulatory constraints, like government rules that might actually force you to use a national carrier. It's like a giant puzzle.
Because, let's face it, no single mode is going to win on every single dimension. That's why smart firms increasingly use multimodal transport. Thanks to that standard shipping container we talked about earlier, cargo can move from a ship straight to a crane, onto a truck, and then to a train, without anyone ever needing to unpack it. It seamlessly combines the incredible low cost of sea freight with the precise door-to-door flexibility of road transport. Best of both worlds, really.
All right, Section 4, Case Study on Fresh Fruit. Let's take all these concepts and apply them to a real-world scenario.
I want you to imagine you are the logistics manager. You've been tasked with shipping a large consignment of delicate, fresh fruit all the way from Thailand to premium buyers in Europe. Think about the 5 factors we literally just covered. Which mode are you going to select to make sure this is a success?
If you guessed air freight, you are absolutely spot on. But why? Well, it comes down to the cargo characteristics. Fresh fruit is highly perishable, which means a very short transit time is absolutely non-negotiable if you want to preserve the quality. In this case, speed is everything. And yes, while air is by far the most expensive mode, those premium European buyers are willing and completely able to absorb the higher transport cost just to get that fresh, on-time delivery. Now, taking a step back, Thailand itself is actually applying these exact infrastructure concepts right now to become a massive regional logistics hub. They are actively upgrading their own trade doors through 3 major investments. First, they're pushing the Eastern Economic Corridor to completely upgrade their ports. Second, they're building brand new rail links directly to China. And third, they're launching a digital national single window to make cross-border customs documentation completely seamless. It's a real game changer for them.
And that brings us to Section 5, Summary and Reflection. Let's quickly wrap things up.
Just to cement what we've covered today, please remember these key takeaways. First, transport infrastructure really is the physical backbone of all cross-border trade. Second, every mode has its purpose. Sea moves immense volume, while air moves incredible value. Third, picking your mode isn't a guessing game. It's an active process of weighing 5 distinct factors. And finally, using multimodal combinations is exactly how you turn everyday logistics into a serious competitive advantage.
Before we finish, I want to leave you with a bit of a challenge. I have 3 reflection questions for you to ponder. First, which single infrastructure investment do you think would most improve Thailand's trade competitiveness? Second, how would that specific choice affect the local businesses on the ground? And third, what kind of environmental constraints might they run into while building it? Have a really good think about those. Thank you so much for learning with me today. Keep studying hard, and I will see you in the next explainer.